Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by
TikTok Cafe, located on Causeway South at the I-10 in Metairie, is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Our menu offers breakfast dishes like our Western omelet made from scratch biscuits, grits, egg sunny side up, and lunch specials like our homemade cheeseburgers with a side of golden brown fries. Don't forget about our weekday lunch special and that every Tuesday is steak night. TikTok Cafe, open 24/7 at Causeway South at the I-10 in Metairie.
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House has been shucking here since 1979. Located at 3117 21st Street in Metairie, Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House offers raw, fried, and grilled oysters, as well as a range of Cajun and Creole dishes. Enjoy a dozen with a smile.
Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Happy New Year to each and every one of you. We have a great show for you as always. Over the next hour, we'll talk about the New Orleans Saints, the LSU Tigers, the New Orleans Pelicans. Sean Fazende of Fox 8 Sports is here to break it down. Nobody does it like him. Sean, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being with us. And man, look, I say it all the time. I get the emails. When's Sean coming on? When's Sean coming on? You've created quite a niche for yourself, my friend, between the breakdowns, the film breakdowns, and all the great shows you guys have over Fox 8. I couldn't be prouder of you. And I tell you what, the audience out there, obviously, again, is craving the information. You guys have done a great job, you in particular, of getting that information out.
Well, I appreciate that. Happy New Year to you. It's good to be back, as usual. Good to have some postseason life after the New Year. Huh?
Finally,
I forgot how this felt. And, I just... It's a new energy. It feels good, to have something to play for this time of year. The holidays are over. Now you got something to really look forward to in the Saints playoffs. And I've always said this city is just so much better when the Saints are winning. We know everybody's in a better mood. It just seems to flow so much better. So Saints are winning. They're in the postseason. It will not be easy. We know that. But they're back where it's been a long time coming, and I think it had to be this year, and it did.
I don't want to get too much into the political side. It's a sports show, but it's one of the reasons why we subsidize the Saints and Pelicans. They mean business for the city. Mm-hmm. And when the Saints are playing well, when the Pelicans are in a playoff hunt, but more the Saints, people are out. They're in restaurants. They're buying merchandise. They're partying before and after the games. And again, there's money turning over in the economy. Mm-hmm. What we've seen for the last 5 years has, again, made people kind of pause. We're an NFL town. We love the Saints. We love the Pelicans. But again, the subsidizing of the NFL and NBA teams. But when you have years like this, you get your money's worth because, again, the whole community is excited. Let me ask this before we get into the nuts and bolts. Do you find the community as excited as they were in 2009 as they are today? Because I don't. And look, maybe it's because they don't, maybe because, they look like world beaters in 2009. Yeah, they look like nobody was going to touch them. You had a feeling they were going all the way. Mm-hmm. I think people are maybe cautiously optimistic this time around. I don't think they're spoiled. I just think that, again, they're maybe a little bit shocked that the Saints have all of a sudden turned into a really good team almost overnight.
Yeah, I don't think it's the 2009 level, mainly because 2009 was happening right in front of us. That Fox 8 Live tailgate show that we do, that was born that year just out of every year they kept winning. As the wins mounted, we got to do a pregame show. We got to do a pregame show. And then all of a sudden they're 13-0. I mean, people are dancing in the streets. It was crazy. And I think that had a lot to do with it. 13-0. This year you started 0-2. 13-0. I mean, it was unbelievable. Everything they touched turned to gold. It was like all those years of terrible, bad breaks. Right. The karma shifted, and all of a sudden, Saints fans were getting there doing it. And, everybody was on cloud nine. And obviously, they ran the table, and they made that run to the playoffs. And still, that 09, I guess would have been 2010 NFC Championship game goes to show you just how difficult it is, because that game, my goodness, was it such an emotional tug of war. But and comparing emotions is probably not to that level, just because that year had so many things that just sort of happened that you just were not expecting. Whereas this year, it was a little more workmanlike, and they kind of just steadily grinded. All of a sudden, you're like, okay, is this real yet? Is it real yet? Is it real yet? Okay, now we're 6-2, 7-2. Okay, it's real now, so let me get caught back up with the emotion.
Right. It's amazing because, again, your dad, my lifelong friend, my radio partner on a Friday, Mike Fazende, and I, we went out on the day of the NFC Championship, and we just walked around to get the vibe. And then, of course, after the game, we had to go to the quarter to get the vibe there. Of course, you and I were in Miami for the Super Bowl. We know it exploded down here in New Orleans. I'm kind of waiting for this powder keg to kind of explode, and it may happen against Carolina with that late game on Sunday. A lot of times the tailgate, and if they get out of that one on Sunday, you may see that type of feeling once again here in the city.
Yeah, and there's word that some of the 09 greats are coming back in town.
That's what I hear.
Bush,
yeah.
Garrett Hartley, Vegeta, those guys. So I have no doubt the atmosphere will match the Christmas Eve game against the Falcons. And hopefully it ratchets up to NFC Championship level. It may not get to quite that far, but this is the playoffs. And don't think for 1 second that Who Dat Nation doesn't realize that this is it's time. It's their time.
Right.
You get a home playoff game. It's time to bring it.
Right. I neglected to ask you as we started. You mentioned Fox 8 Tailgate. Tell us about all the great shows, your award-winning blog, the app as well. Let us know a little bit about it.
Yeah, download the app, the Final Play app. All the stuff's on there. I got my After Further review blog, which is on there. As for our shows, Thursday night, 10:30 is our game plan show. Sunday this week will be from 12 to 3, our Fox 8 Live tailgate. So it's going to be a lot, and we're bringing some. It's a big game, but we're bringing some more than just sports personalities with us this week. So let's just keep it. I'll just keep it at that.
That's beautiful.
So it's going to be a big event, as it should be. From 12 to 3, we'll have our Final Play show at 10:30 Sunday night, and then Monday 10:30, Jim Henderson, Juan Kincaid, and myself will break it all down. The Black and Gold Review, which has become Juan, Jim, and myself's favorite show to do. Hopefully, we're talking. It's not our last show. Hopefully, we got one more, or maybe two more, maybe even three more after that. So, that's the rundown of the shows, and fox8live.com is our website.
You and I had a conversation this week on the radio show, by the way, Sports 1280, noon to 2, the iHeartRadio app, and for those of you that have HD in your cars, and most do, 101.1 FM HD2. Catch me middays on Sports 1280. You had an interesting thought about the Tampa game. I want to put the Tampa Bay Saints game to bed. They lose 31-24. It's a game that, really kind of, I have been, I don't want to say a downer on the Saints this week, but I am concerned about the defense and the injuries. We'll get into that in a moment. But you think that again, that was maybe, we talked about sandwich games all season long. That's kind of, you think that was a classic sandwich game?
We've been waiting for the trap game all year. I think it finally happened. It finally caught them. Right. The season finale, the regular season finale. And I can recall during the week just kind of feeling like, if they're not careful, this thing could slip away. I mean, you had an overwhelming chance to win the division and host the game, but there was that one sliver where you might lose it. And look, they lost the game, and thank God for Atlanta. Who thought we would ever say that? But they were able to take care of business. But I kind of felt like it was not going to be possible to match the intensity and emotion of the Christmas Eve game inside the Dome against Atlanta, especially given what happened 2 weeks earlier on that Thursday night game. And you look at the way they started that game. Defensively in particular, they were flat. Tampa Bay was able to run right down their throats, 12 plays, 75 yards. And, Alvin Kamara kind of woke everybody up, as he tends to do this rookie season. But I just felt like, as the game went on, third down numbers, execution on defense, execution on offense. I kind of felt like the team that was more prepared, ready to play, won that game Sunday, and it was not the Saints. And Manti Te'o said something interesting in the locker room today. He goes, I think losing that game might have been the best thing that happened to us. We're not coasting into the playoffs now. Got a little bit of a, hey, anybody can beat us at any time, especially now that we get into the postseason.
Such a different vibe in 09 when the last 3 games when they kind of shut it down, getting guys healthy. You didn't have that luxury this year. And again, they weren't as prolific of an offense as they were then. And I'm going to be honest with you, they almost got to match that intensity that we saw with that 2009 defense with the physicality and the flying around. They got to really kick it up a notch. Look, the injuries are the thing that really, give me pause about, again, how far they can go. 11 defenders on IR, 11 defenders. A lot of those guys were either starters or guys that were contributing or expected to contribute. They brought 7 players off the street or the practice squad to fill those roles on the defensive side of the ball thus far. And look, even though guys like George Johnson have done a nice job, Freeney, who's been brought in, we're not talking about Dwight Freeney, right?
Right.
Okay, I mean, Hodges, a few of these guys that they brought in have played well. It's when you lose your starters like that, it's hard to recover. I got to give a lot of credit to Mike Nolan. Got to give a lot of credit to Dennis Allen. The defensive coaches have done a great job, but that to me is the storyline this week. Can the Saints overcome the injuries on the defensive side of the ball?
And if I recall correctly, back in 2009, I distinctly remember being in that locker room asking Tracy Porter, you guys are healthy at the right time. That year, they had 10 of 11 opening day starters available going into the playoffs. It's not the case this year.
Kind of like what Atlanta has, right?
Exactly. And I can recall speaking to Zach Strief, it was years ago, and he said, sometimes it's not always the best team, it's the healthiest team at the end of the year. And we're starting to see a few things defensively that's starting to, you can only lose so many guys before it affects your statistical, ranking. Rushing defense, they're back down to maybe 16 or 17. Passing defense, they're 16 or 17. But they're still keeping teams out of the end zone. Take Tampa Bay out of the equation for a second. They're still allowing under 20 points a game. And more than anything else, they're taking the ball away. That gives me hope because in 09, that was the difference.
Yeah, well, 39 turnovers. I mean that and the flying around. They were a physical team, and they have to do that. And I talked about this on the radio show today. As as we kind of get through the week and you kind of break it down and you're looking at the matchups here, to me, and this is the key all the time in football, but especially this game and really every game from this point forward that the Saints will be alive in the playoffs, they got to win the line of scrimmage. When you've got guys in the second and third level that have injuries or inexperience. If you can win the line of scrimmage on defense, be physical up front, contain Cam Newton, again, stop Stewart, McCaffrey, etc., Olsen and Funches. It's not like they got world beaters out there in terms of skill set players. But if you win the line of scrimmage, putting pressure on Cam, contain him, stop the run on defense, and then on offense, do what they've done. Open up holes for the running game, protect Drew Brees. Then all of a sudden now, physical play on both sides of the line of scrimmage, I think they got a chance to get to the Super Bowl. But it's going to be interesting to see, can they do that? Can they generate the pass rush? Can they be physical against the run?
Can they generate the pass rush is a great question, and I don't have the answer to it because I'm not quite sure. You hope Cam Jordan goes into beast mode and is able to be a one-man wrecking crew, as he's shown at times this year. You'd like for him to have a running mate. Look, since Alex Okafor went down, very underrated injury, I don't think they've really been able to supplant that side, especially with Trey Hendrickson being out. Now, maybe he's back. He was limited these first 2 days in practice, so maybe that's his first signs of life.
That would be huge.
That would be huge to get another depth guy right there. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I don't mind Sheldon Rankins as much against the run on the end. I don't like him in pass rushing situations. He's just not quick enough. He's a beast on the inside in pass rushing situations, but not on the outside. Other side of the ball to me is interesting as well because I looked at some stats and my eyes went like, whoa. I didn't realize Carolina has 50 sacks on the season. The Saints' offensive line dominated them. Dominated them in both games. So if Teron Armstead is back, which he's limited, hopefully he'll be back. He says he's working to get that way. We'll see. It is with Teron Armstead, it's a tough scenario. But if they're able to do that, they're going to have a chance to control the clock and win this game in that crowd or with that crowd behind them. So I agree with you. I think winning the line of scrimmage is huge. Offensively, if they're healthy, I think it's going to be easier. I don't want to say easier, but it's a great defensive line they're facing. But defensively, That's the challenge because you have a guy that can get outside the pocket.
You know, I love having you on both of these shows because you're a guy that goes back and breaks down the film. I'm a guy that goes back and watches the game a second time. You're watching it, you're breaking it down. The Fazende film breakdown is gold. I mean, solid gold. You guys got to check that out on Mondays and also on Thursdays, right? You're doing it twice.
Mondays, Thursdays, and Sundays. It won't be this Sunday, but Monday, Thursday, and Sunday. Correct.
Look, it would be blasphemy to talk bad about Drew Brees, and believe me, I'm not. But he's got to play like a Hall of Famer. He's got to raise his game. Going back and looking at plays, and boy, you pointed one out to us in that Atlanta game when he threw the interception to Deebo Jones. I mean, if he is Brees trusting that offensive line, stepping up, going through every one of his progressions as he's always done in the past, he sees Ingram in the flat. He knows he's there, and it's probably a different game. I feel like that. He's got to trust the offensive line more. He's got to trust these receivers to get a little bit more separation, which we'll get into in a moment. But he may have to hold that ball account longer in the playoffs to allow things to open up. Or where, again, look, I get it. He's 39 years old. You've taken a lot of hits. You don't want to. We don't want him to get hit. Nobody wants him to get hit. But he may have to, again, hold on to that ball just maybe one more count and play more Hall of Fame type ball. He's kind of, delegated and allowed the team to carry him and not himself.
And other than that's really the only play that stands out to me this year is, what are you doing? There was no need to make that play, that throw. And there's been some in the past, those 3 straight losing seasons where Drew has even said, when we get behind, I throw riskier throws. Right. I'm trying to make something happen. He doesn't do that this year. And to his credit, he hasn't forced anything, and they've won. That's why he's 72% completion percentage, NFL record for this career and for a single season. So I think for the most part, he's done that. It's all about Drew making the right football play. And look, it's Drew Brees. Hall of Famer, best to ever lace him up for the black and gold. You got to trust he can do that. Yes. And he understands the urgency. And he's another one. You're starting to really sense the appreciation. I don't know if it was maybe something with his grandfather passing this week. He just was very introspective in our talk this week. And you could tell he was kind of soaking it all in, appreciating these moments. He'll turn 39, I believe, 11 days, 10 days. So I think you gotta trust. If you can't trust your Hall of Famer, who can you trust? Right. I think you'll trust them to make the plays.
Sean, I get it all the time. I know you get it. People want to know what's going on with Willie Snead.
That has been the mystery of the season. And it's not like the Saints can't use him. Right. Because it's not like someone else is taking his plays away.
When you break the film, do you not see separation? I mean, when I'm looking at it, at times, you're not seeing the separation. At times, they're going in another direction. Whereas before, he was the security blanket. He's not that security blanket anymore.
It's about separation. And, man, I don't know if this was from the start of the season with the incident where he was suspended and it just kind of carried in. He does not carry himself with the same confidence he once had. Even when he runs on the field, you can see it. He just doesn't have the same, give me the ball, I will make a play for you. He just doesn't have it. His big thing was route running and moving the sticks. What's the one thing the Saints haven't done this year? Third and medium.
No doubt.
They can't move the sticks.
Right.
So they are in desperate need of Willie Snead, and he's not there for them. I mean, if there is a quote-unquote X factor, an unknown, or something that you can say, okay, it hadn't really happened during the season but could happen in the postseason, it's Willie Snead. If he explodes, and look out, because all of a sudden a limited wide receiver core gets that much more dynamic.
Go back in your mind's eye, Lance Moore.
Exactly.
I mean, think about how critical Lance Moore was, not just when he was with the Saints, but that 2009 season. Okay, and that's got to happen. Look, we know that Michael Thomas is going to get his. That rest of that receiving core really has to step their game up. I like the way they used Ted Ginn the other day, more of a, again, not maybe sending him deep like the old days with Devery Henderson, but just using him in the crossing route, moving him across field, and allowing him to get separation. And then again, then it's only about pitch and catch with him and Brees. Yeah,
and it's I think Ted Ginn he's been what they thought. The big deep post against was it Atlanta, where I still can't believe the defense Atlanta was in when I watched that play on film. It was unbelievable. They were playing up close with 50 seconds left in the first half at midfield. Anyway, but that play, and there was one play earlier in the season where they've connected on that deep ball, but I still say the timing is not quite perfect with those two. You saw it last week in Tampa Bay But he's been able to make up for it with the jet sweep. He's catching the ball on shorter to intermediate routes more than he's done in his entire career. He can be inconsistent with his hands. But I think what you paid for with him, I think he's giving you what his money's worth. So, and in Michael Thomas's case, look, he surpassed his rookie season, which was very hard to do.
All hands on deck this week if you can play. Do you believe that Teron Armstead will play? And then if he is, how effective can he be? He's been in and out the lineup so much. Got to give a lot of credit to this offensive line, from Laribas to Clemente to, again, the starters out there. They've done a yeoman's job this year.
They've done a great job, but this is the playoffs, and you want your guys. I think if he's ready to go, he's going to play. The fact that he was limited these first 2 days, I think that goes to show you he's getting closer and closer. We'll know Friday, his official status, but I happen to think he's going to play. I think he wants to play. And if you look at the production, I mean, when he is on, he is one of the best left tackles in the game. When he's fully healthy, I mean, he moves people and he gets that second and third level. So, quite frankly, the Saints need him if they want to really have a chance in this playoffs.
So you've been pointing it out all season in your film study, and I think that's the beautiful thing about this offense that reminds me of the offense in the heyday, is the fact that the second and third levels of blocking downfield, whether it be the wide receivers, the tight ends, the breakdown you did on Josh Hill was fantastic, or again the linemen. I mean, Andres Pete was thought to be a bust. They move him inside, and then you watch the guy out on sweeps, you watch him on the screenplay, and you watch him mauling players. You look at Ramczyk, all these guys able to get out and to be able to get downfield and block. It's one of the reasons why you got 1,500 yards from scrimmage from both Kamara and Ingram, because they've gotten that downfield blocking.
I think that's the difference between 6 and 7 yard runs and 50-yard runs.
Amen.
Is A, wide receiver blocking, B, tight end blocking, but C, those big uglies getting out in that second and third level. And it ain't easy, Eric.
No.
That's 330-pound guys. It takes a little while to get started and stopping. So, and Andres Pete really, to me, has been the catalyst with that. Him on a pull, him pulling, whether it be left or right, I mean, he is an absolute animal. I mean, he is there. He's got bad intentions. He's ready to hurt somebody. You know what I'm saying? So I think in that regard, he has set the tone. And that's a guy that I viewed when he got here as a little soft.
Yeah.
But
we talked about it.
He is an absolute beast. And if he can stay at that left guard spot, I think that helps them.
Yeah, and look, if they're healthy, I've said it all year long, they have proven if they're not the best offensive line in the NFL, they're not far away from number one. They're
the most physical. I mean, they move people.
Right, and that's why I've said all week long, and really all year long, and I think you would agree with this. For the Saints to have an effective game plan, for them to play very, very well, they got to stay away from turnovers and penalties. But also, they need an officiating crew that will allow them to play physical. The hand-to-hand combat on the outside with the cornerbacks Crawley and Lattimore, they're very, very physical. They play at their best when they can lay hands on a receiver. And even though it's kind of hurt the Saints a little bit with most of their pass catchers, Michael Thomas is really good when you allow him to be a physical receiver. And I think that offense and defensive lines, which is kind of a given, but especially the Saints offensive line, you allow them to get out and be physical with a team, then I think they're at their best. They need an officiating crew that's going to allow these teams to play a little bit, be a little bit physical. That plays right into the Saints' hands on Sunday.
And the Saints have made no secret of the fact that they're going to drop that safety. They're going to trust their corners on the outside. They're going to let Marcus Williams run seam to seam to play the cover one, the single high. And they're going to get physical. And if that means 1 or 2 plays get called for holding, so be it. I saw in that Atlanta game, Marshawn Lattimore probably could have gotten flagged 3 times. He never got flagged.
That's right.
So I think you're right. And that's another thing, because I think there's a new DNA with this team. That 2009 team was explosive and fun, and this is a more rugged, physical.
It travels well, right?
It really does. And I think they're built to play on the road if they have to. But it's a different DNA with this team. It really is.
Yeah, and you know what? Got to say, it starts with the coach, right? I mean, look, all of a sudden, you got Peyton giving the choke sign to the Atlanta running back, okay, all right? And then last week, the poking of Dirk Cotter, the Tampa Bay. I mean, look, I'm going to tell you, I saw it when it happened. I'm thinking to myself, I thought it was kind of a playful thing at first until we saw the video. Hey, Peyton was smoking mad about what happened in the Dome with Michael Thomas. I'm sorry, with
Marshawn Lattimore.
Lattimore, pardon me. And, again, he let Cutter know about it. And, it just goes to show you, I love that he's got his moxie back. I mean, I love it because it starts with him. And, look, we've talked about it on this program. I've talked about it on the radio show. I don't know if he's had that same moxie over the last few years. He's got it back.
Yeah, well, he didn't have his mojo.
Right.
Because you know why? I don't think he believed in his team.
No, I agree.
14,
you were the
15,
first
16,
to say
I don't
in the
think he
market.
believed in that team. I'll say this because I thought he went a little too far in the Atlanta Thursday night game. He even admitted it with the choke signs, and he looked like he was about to. If his assistant wouldn't pull him out, he might have killed that referee. Who knows?
He was emotionally into it.
He went
no doubt.
a little overboard that game, but an emotional Sean Payton on the sideline, that's him.
Right.
And you got to be yourself. And when he's doing that, I think that resonates with his team. And he can't be any other way. He's got to be emotional on the sideline, or he's just not into the game. And how many times do we see that kind of dumbfounded look on his face in 14, 15, and 16 where you're like, what's up? Where's Sean Payton at? Where's he at? Well, now he's back.
We're going to take a break. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Sean Fazende of Fox 8 Sports is with us. We'll come back. We'll continue our conversation about the Saints. Then we'll get into LSU. We'll talk some Pelicans as well today. We'll also go to the phone lines at about 45 minutes after the hour. Don't go anywhere. It's a short break from our great underwriters, and we'll be right back.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Amco Fence, locally owned and operated since 1976. Fully licensed and insured and a member of the BBB, Amco serves both residential and commercial customers. If you're looking to repair, replace, or install a fence for security or aesthetic reasons, Amco Fence supplies wooden, metal, chain link, vinyl, and ornamental or automatic gates. Amco aims to satisfy your fencing needs. Amco Fence, 504-468-9559 or amcofencecompany.com.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Thanks so much for watching tonight. Sean Fazende of Fox 8 Sports is our guest. Sean, we talk about all the time, bad cam, good cam, bad cam. You got to have bad cam this week. Keep him in the pocket, make him a pocket passer, limit his ability to be able to run or to, again, extend plays.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot, good cam, bad cam. Truth is, if you really look at him, stats the last back half of the season, it's been a lot of bad cam. It hasn't really been good cam. There's been some good flashes of good cam. A Green Bay game comes to mind, but for the most part, it's been bad cam. So I think I think he's hurting with some wide. He doesn't have the targets he once had. That's why I've always said Greg Olsen is the matchup to watch in this game. I don't know
who matches up there. You think?
I don't know if Von Bell. You probably mix it up. Maybe Von Bell. Te'o's struggles a little bit in coverage. I like Craig Robertson as his own guy. There's been talk. Maybe even you throw a Marshawn Lattimore on him. I don't know. He's never done that all season. Do you do that in the playoffs? Who knows?
I worry about the size factor.
Yeah, the size factor there. But I think that's the matchup because if he is on and he's getting open, you got to divert your coverage towards him. I think that opens up things for a guy like Christian McCaffrey or even a Devin Funchess. So I think that is the one matchup that you look at and you say, okay, we got to figure that out because if we don't, that could hurt us.
Yeah. Manti Te'o, I thought played great last two games before Tampa. I was a little more critical of him than others. You thought he played an okay game, though, don't you?
Against
Tampa.
I thought he was okay. I thought he was around the ball a good bit. I thought he could have played better. The entire defense could have played better. That whole defense looked like they were sleepwalking.
He's got to have a career game, though. I mean, he really has to step his game up.
Well, his best game as a Saint came against Atlanta on Christmas Eve. I mean, he was everywhere. He's got to be a guy that's making all the calls, And like he's done pretty much all, because my big criticism of him whenever he got here, when I went and watched his tape, was he waits too long to make the decision. But if you watch him now, it goes to show you how well they've been coached. He sees it, he goes. I mean, he reads his keys and he goes. He trusts his eyes, he trusts his film study, and he's a much better player because of it. If you miss one, so be it. But he's been a pretty sure tackler. Like I said, he's a little limited in coverage, but you can kind of disguise that a little bit. So I think he's got to be the guy that runs this defense once again.
Kamara's done a great job in terms of returning kicks with the little bit of opportunity he's had. Do you think he may return punts, or they'll stay with Tommy Lee Lewis at this point? What do you think happens there?
I know who I would put back there, but I don't know. I know they're worried about the number of snaps he takes.
At this point in the season,
yeah,
do you really still worry about that?
If it were me, I'd go Alvin Kamara in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Boy, they put him back there. Was it 2 games ago? And he got a 40-yard kickoff return.
49 the first time.
49, and then he gets the 106. It's like every time this guy touches the ball, something amazing happens. And he hesitated. He hesitated in the end zone. And we talked to him today. And I even asked him, I said, do you think when you hesitated, it may have threw the defenders off a little bit? He goes, yeah, I think it did. Because if you look at the sky cam, no defender was within 25 yards of him when he had the double clutch and got to the goal line. And then the way it was blocked, and then I don't know if you saw the film study this week, but the way he turns, the way he changed direction with his full momentum going straight, the way he was able to subtly change direction and hit that sideline, it was something special. So if it were me, Alvin Kamara, because those special teams touchdowns and combined with takeaways on defense, that's how you win games in the playoffs.
Go back to Reggie Bush.
Yeah.
I mean, it was going to be in the Dome on Sunday. I mean, when Peyton wanted to light a fire under the crowd or the team, he put Bush back there to return a punt. He put Bush back there to return a kick. And, again, you wonder why he has been doing it all year, especially with the problems the Saints have had in terms of returning kicks and punts this year. But you mentioned that film study, and I thought it was really great because not only was it the hesitation of Kamara, but give a lot of credit to the blockers for the Saints for not committing a penalty there with the hesitation.
I'm going to give my first tip of the cap to Taysom Hill.
Oh, there you go.
Taysom Hill, number 7, who had a special teams tackle, and he had the block, or I should say blocks, that sprung that big return, because he makes the block, and he disengages. The defender goes another 5 or 6 yards. He stays on him and makes the other seal block that allows for that nice lane for Kamara to cut through. And then you had the Maudie, you had Hardy, you had Banjo, you had Hodges, I believe. I mean, there was a sky cam shot. Every single player has hat on a hat. Some double teaming, some one guy blocking two. So it was crazy good blocking, no doubt about it.
All right, Sean, break it down for us. Saints, Carolina, 3rd time, this one in the Dome. Chance to be able to move on to the divisional round of the playoffs. Saints are big favorites. I'm a little scared because of the defensive injuries. Break it down. What has to happen for the Saints to win?
I think take care of the football on offense. I think that's key. I think get a takeaway or 2 on defense. I think that's key. I like your point about winning the line of scrimmage, because if you control the line of scrimmage, I think you have a chance. And the one area you got to do better in, you got to do better on 3rd downs, whether the offense or defense. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a game you got to pay attention to. It's not going to be one they run away from. But I think they win. I'm going to go something like 27-20, be in the 20s, and they move on to face either Philly or Minnesota, depending on what happens in the other game.
Huge letdown for local fans over the holiday weekend with, the Saints going out and getting beat by Tampa Bay, and then of course Notre Dame beating LSU, and man, it has kind of come. I mean, it has been like a volcano erupting since then. I never, as you analyze this, you don't really realize the ramifications of what has happened here, but all of a sudden, not getting the 10-win season, not getting the bowl championship of the Citrus Bowl, not beating a national team like Notre Dame has clearly put Ed Orgeron on the hot seat. You take what's going on behind the scenes with Matt Canada and the infighting there, the uncertainty. Well, there's no uncertainty. He's gone. Uncertainty what's going to happen in the future. And then, of course, now the flirtation of Dave Aranda with Texas A&M and the possibility of, again, the Green Bay Packers coming after him. There's a tremendous amount of turmoil right now with this program. And, the perception of the program's changed. From, if they win 10 games, they beat Notre Dame, they win the Citrus Bowl, I think they're walking out of there thinking, okay, we're getting, it doesn't matter what happens with Matt Canada. We're getting another great offensive coordinator here, and we're going to roll next year, even though there are some uncertainties. I think people would have felt better about it. There's a perception now that maybe, the program, maybe the job may be too big for Coach Orgeron by a lot of people out there. And look, I'm a guy that I want to see him succeed. I do. But even I got a question when you are desperately trying to hold on to a defensive coordinator, when comments are being made that you made previously that now you're kind of backtracking on about five-star athletes, about having the best coordinators in America. I think that at this point, Orgeron's got to do something to kind of quell the masses here.
My advice, and I want to make sure I'm clear with this. Back off the ledge, LSU fans. Back off. I understand that it's crazy how one game can completely flip everything. I don't think this is a program in decline. I don't think they're ascending. I think right now they're in neutral. Okay, I think they're in the exact same spot as they were when Les Miles was the head coach those last 2 or 3 years.
Is that good enough though, Sean?
No, it's not. But in fairness, it can be salvaged. All you need is one quality hire here, and it could be an unknown that we don't even know.
Sure,
it could be an unknown, and you have to, you just have to, for this starving fan base, find someone that can develop a quarterback and run somewhat of a modern offense and be effective. I still think that this program it's not sinking. It's not a program on the rise. It's flatlined a little bit. And this is it. Orgeron has this offseason, this recruiting class, however it finishes, this hiring cycle, however it finishes, he's got to get it right, because you dip to 6-6 or 7-5 next year. Who knows if there's a year 3 or a year 4?
I'm going to tell you what, Sean. First of all, brutal schedule next year.
Yeah.
I mean, brutal. I mean, again, you've got Miami to open up in Dallas. Within the first 3 weeks, you got to take on Auburn at Auburn. Then you got at Florida and Georgia at home back to back. Then you got then early November you're taking on Alabama in Tiger Stadium. The schedule maker did no favors here. And you've got an unknown at quarterback. Is it Narcisse? Is it Brennan? Neither guy has played significant time, if at all. For the first time in my lifetime, 57 years on this earth, I can never remember an LSU team with not just a stable of running backs, but running backs that could be considered the best in America waiting in line to be able to take their turn running the football for LSU. They don't have that right now, and they don't have one on the horizon. So there's a lot of question marks about what's going forward next year, and I'm gonna say right now, Orgeron and Oliva are tied at the hip here. Okay, don't worry about what's going on with Will Wade, who again is doing a great job with the basketball program. At the end of the day, football drives everything there.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of go by what you said there. I mean, look, I think this program, and as you said, Orgeron and Oliva, that's probably Orgeron's saving grace here, because Oliva's going to give him the best possible chance to succeed, because quite frankly he has to, because he's on his way out if Orgeron is on his way out. So, look, I understand there's questions, but I don't want to have the purple and gold blinders on here, because I think I've been pretty realistic when it comes to this program.
Sure.
But I think if you stock if you have a fresh stock of players, you have a good coaching staff that you clearly need to get along with, because that's what the Matt Canada thing is. That's a personality clash.
Right. Well, it's a lack of trust now. I mean, the rumor is he went over Orgeron's head to Oliva after the Troy game with, again, not meddling in the offense.
But that could have been a disaster, and it wasn't. I mean, it was. I'm sure it was tense, but they managed to go 6-1 after that. And to me, I know that losing the bowl game really it hurt, and it just for whatever reason, and I think it had a lot to do with the way they lost, because there were some questionable decisions made in that game.
Oh, absolutely. You can't have guys on the sideline when it's 4th and 1.
Well, I mean, and look, I don't even have so much of a problem with the play call on 4th and 1 as I do not having a special teams coordinator, quite frankly, because I think you make the 2 field goals in the previous drives, you're not not even in that scenario.
Agreed.
But anyway. They kept things together enough to go 9-3 and then 9-4. Now you just got it's a tough scenario, but we've seen this so many times. I can remember so many times feeling this way. Oh, directions on the slide with Les Miles, and somehow he rescues it and it comes back. So while I understand the concerns, because they're there, I still think we have to give him a chance to make this up, to see what happens here.
Not trying to be negative here, folks, or believe that. Okay, I want Orgeron to succeed, but it's a different animal, as I've talked about on the radio show this week. You know, Orgeron at one time was selling USC, Miami, LSU, with Jimmy Johnson and the Seattle Seahawks coach, Pete Carroll, and Les Miles. He's now selling LSU with Ed Orgeron. And the way there was a panic in Baton Rouge this week with the flirtation of Aranda elsewhere, you almost got the feeling that if Aranda went, that they might take the whole thing and just blow it up, you know, at this point. Almost that Aranda and Orgeron are kind of handcuffed together. We'll get into Aranda in a moment. The perception out there is they've got to make another splash with an offensive coordinator. Look, and all due respect to Steve Ensminger, former LSU quarterback, did a nice job, again, in tough circumstances, pulling the offense together after Cam Cameron was relieved and Les Miles was relieved. But I don't think he suffices. I don't think when you promise the best coordinators in America that Steve Ensminger is in that list. And more than anything else, I think you mentioned it early, you got to be able to have someone that can recruit and develop quarterbacks.
That's it. Doesn't matter what system you run. If you have a quarterback that's not getting developed, because I don't even know if was that Canada's strong suit. I mean,
it was supposed to be.
I mean, I thought Etling completely topped out, and I thought, look, I tip my cap to him. He's a tough dude. He's a tough player. Sure. He certainly represented LSU well. But you can clearly upgrade from that. And on the surface, you would think Miles Brennan and Lowell Narciso are two guys that will both be an upgrade depending on who wins that competition. But I don't know if it has to be a sexy name. It could be an unknown guy. As long as he's got a reputation of developing quarterbacks, then it won't be hard to surpass what we saw. Right. And then another thing as well, what is going on with the development at wide receiver? Because it just feels like there's a lot of talent coming through at wide receiver, and I didn't see a whole lot of it on the field. No. Not at all this season.
No, I agree. And that's another unknown. The skill positions with this team are unknown. Now, I'll say on the defensive side of the ball, they get some talent. And they got some young talent on the defensive side of the ball. I think the offensive line will be really good because of the players that got a lot of playing time this year. I do think that some of those juniors that maybe flirt with the NFL, they'd be better off coming back to LSU for a year and increasing their draft stock. I think they could use another year of SEC ball. But with that said, the question marks are really at the skill position. Let's go to Dave Aranda. 4 years, $10 million, $2.5 million a year. The rumor is total control. The rumor is he may end up picking the defensive line coach. The coach that's the spot that's open now. I think because Dennis Johnson's moving into the defensive line, but he will have complete autonomy over the defense as opposed to what went on with the meddling of Matt Canada of the offense. I always felt that he had complete autonomy anyway, but it'll be interesting to see again how much cachet now Aranda has with the program after they pretty much broke the bank to keep him.
Well, clearly, you don't do that unless you have complete and 1,000% trust that he is the guy to really not just basically continue the tradition of LSU defensive excellence. That's never been an issue.
No.
Look, I don't know what the actual outside of the dollars range. I don't know what else you could possibly give him that he didn't already have. I do know this, and I heard it on the radio earlier today. The fact that he went back to LSU after A&M made the second run really goes to show you he was leaning towards staying at LSU because he could have just agreed to A&M right away when they made the whatever it was north of $2 million offer. So I certainly think had he gone. Now like I said, I'm pretty neutral right now when it comes to LSU. I haven't dipped into that glass half empty yet. I haven't jumped into glass half full. But had Aranda left, I probably would have dipped a little bit into the pessimistic side.
I don't know how Orgeron survived if Aranda would have left with the turmoil with the offensive coordinator and everything else that's going on. I just think that a lot of people would have been down, and especially with again the really tough schedule next year. I had talked about on the radio show this week. If Aranda would have left, he might not have made it to the November third game against Alabama. Because again, there would have been a feeling that this program is going nowhere, and the best coordinators in America are bolting from the organization. With that said, Aranda stays. I agree with you. You get an offensive coordinator that runs.
This can all be
Agreed.
fixed.
But I'll also say this: the 4- and 5-star recruits that are going to be, or at least right now, have lukewarm commitments or have at least expressed an interest in LSU, the DeMar Chases of the world, the Surtains of the world, they got to nail those guys on National Signing Day.
Yeah, and it hasn't really seemed to impact the recruiting class. Mm-hmm. You'll probably end up with Surtain. You hopefully end up with Jamar Chase. You hopefully end up with the kid out of Scotlandville. Hasn't really seemed to impact them on that level. And look, it was down like this surrounding Orgeron after that Troy game.
Yes.
Because everything came out, the meddling in the offense, the meeting with the AD. Somehow he was able to write, and I don't think he's got enough credit for that. To be honest with you.
I agree with that.
To go 6-1 after that, I mean, it was as bad as it could get. So that's why I think it's bad right now. It's the last game. You head into the season with a bad feeling in your mouth. But I do think with the right hire and the right, if this thing can mesh well together, I think you can get back to a 10-win LSU program, which may not be enough for some people, but if you're averaging 10 wins as a head coach, I think you'll be fine.
Got any eligibility left? Just wondering because, again, they need a couple things. Number one, you can't find a kicker on campus. You can't find somebody that can put the ball through the uprights. It's the most frustrating thing I've ever seen. I mean, honestly. I mean, again, Tulane has had these problems for a while now. LSU, Connor Cope was supposed to be one of the best kickers coming in the nation coming to LSU. This has not been 1 year. This has been multiple years that, again, not being able to get a kicker that can put the ball between the uprights has cost you games for this program.
Now, look, me not being as, as into the inner workings of college football coaching staffs, I would imagine Nick Saban's got a special teams coordinator. I would imagine Les Miles always had a special teams coordinator. I don't understand the why you would not want a special teams coordinator. That phase of the game is too important, as we saw in the bowl game. To me, that was the difference in the game. It wasn't. To me, it wasn't 4th and inches from the 1-inch line. To me, it was a messy day. It was a dirty day. We saw that. But you got to make 3 chip shot field goals, and you only made 1. If you do make those 3, it's a totally different ball game.
Well, I talked about it this week that, it's not like they didn't have people that were working with the special teams. They had so many consultants, they could have started a firm. I mean, literally, they could have started a consultant firm on special teams, and they didn't get it done. And, McMahon, the former Saints special teams coordinator, is expected to be named the LSU special teams coordinator if that happens. McMahon did a good job, but, at times with the Saints.
At times.
Okay, at times, okay? But, again, that it's an issue. It's an issue. And, look, I'm hopeful Ed Orgeron can turn it around.
I hope so, too.
That is a great story. Louisiana guy, back at the school that he loves, having an opportunity to win a national championship. That's the stuff movies are made out of. But, again, they've got to get a little bit more control.
All of a sudden,
on
the
this.
urgency is now.
Well, it is. It has to be, though,
and
right?
You don't want to see LSU dip into mediocrity. Right there, they're there, right? They're right on that cusp. With a 9 to 10 win team, you're still considered. I would still consider them, other than Alabama and Auburn, the 3rd best team in the SEC West. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I still would consider them maybe the 4th or 5th best team in the SEC. Any lower than that, you're starting to kind of dip into that mediocre area, and I don't think LSU fans want to see that. No one really does.
Let's head to the phone lines. 866-3200. Sean Bazan of Fox 8 Sports is our guest. To Joe in Covington on the North Shore. Hey, Joe, how you doing today?
Hey, Eric. Sean, how you guys doing? Great.
Doing great, Joe.
I just wanted to make one comment. It's kind of a ludicrous kind of comment. When we played Carolina, I think it was last year, and Monty tackled or hit Cam Newton as he was trying to get in the end zone, and I think he concussed him, or at least he knocked the heck out of him. I was thinking we kind of need some sort of a saying going into this one, kind of like release the Kraken. But maybe we could make it, I know it sounds silly, release the Maudie.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I think you're on to something, Joe, because it's something that I've talked about this week on the radio show, and we talked tonight. They got to be as physical as they were in 2009. They got to bring the wood. I mean, if you got Reggie Bush running out with a bat on Sunday, that's not a bad deal at all. They got to play like that.
Absolutely.
We think back to that Arizona playoff game. Come on.
And I remember walking out, in those days, you walked out of the tunnel, the same area the players walked out and onto the field. And I remember I was walking back through the tunnel as Reggie was walking out, And I remember looking, and he had this look in his eye. I remember like looking at Rob Ennis, my coworker at the time. I said, man, he's got the look. And then he was a man possessed in that game.
Yes,
so
he was.
it's going to take that, right? It takes the extraordinary. It takes the incredible in the playoffs to really win. And that's what I think's got to happen Sunday.
Concerned about the fact that the Panthers have the majority of their team that has veteran experience that's been to a Super Bowl, and the Saints have little or no experience?
Don't tell the Ohio State guys that. I can tell you that because we asked all of them. We asked Marshawn Lattimore. We asked Michael Thomas. We asked Von Bell. I know Ted Ginza, an Ohio State guy as well. Don't ask them that because they'll tell you we played in plenty of big games. This is nothing. We've played in plenty of big games. So while I think it's a storyline, because I was one of my storylines a Wednesday night, while I think it's on the surface it's a storyline, I think inside that locker room, because it still feels pretty much like a normal Sunday to Sunday game, game week. There was a bigger media core, but not a huge media core, overwhelming media core. Like if they win this game and move on, it will be. So I do think there was a sense of normalcy inside that locker room that I don't think will overwhelm the young players or the ones that haven't played in the playoffs.
Tahoma and Greg. Greg, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Greg.
Hey guys. My question is what's the game plan for this Taysom Hill? I know he's a quarterback, but he's playing on special teams, and I'm just kind of wondering if maybe Sean Payton has something up his sleeve like he did in the Super Bowl with the onside kick. And I'll just hang up and listen.
Sean?
I like that idea, by the way. The bottom line is this. Sean Payton knows if he were to get rid of Taysom Hill, quarterback-needy teams, like the team he left, the Packers, would have probably snatched him up. He's in love with his athleticism, runs a 4.4. If you ever stood next to him, he's a physical specimen. He's 6'2", 225. I mean, he's a physical guy, and he's just trying his best to get him on the field somehow, some way. And and kudos to Sean Payton for thinking outside the box and saying, you know what, let's just let him. Let's see what he can do.
The kid's played good.
And he's been productive on special teams. He's even played some wide receiver. Now, what I'm not buying is he's the future quarterback. I'm not doing it. Sean Payton would never allow a quarterback to field kickoffs and block on kickoff coverage. No.
He's not Bum Phillips, and Hill's not Guido Merkins.
Exactly. So, excuse me. I think he's a guy that they like. They love his athleticism, and while they have him, they want to use him. And kickoff coverage and kickoff protection is the way to do that.
Older Saints fans know exactly what I'm talking about.
I act like I knew. I really didn't.
He was just a baby then. I don't even know if he was around then. In fact, I don't think he was.
Probably not.
No, he wasn't. Tom is in Metairie. He's here with us. Hey, Tom.
Yeah, this is Robert in Gretna. Toby in Gretna. Anyway. Yeah, I think Canada and Orgeron need to come to some type of understanding so they can coexist, make some type of mutual agreement, because if not, there'll be something like what happened at Oakland with Bill Musgrave leaving and that offense went right down the tube. And I'll hang up and get your opinion.
Thanks. Appreciate the phone call. Wanted to know that they could kiss and make up. I'm going to tell you everything I've heard. The divorce is imminent.
No. And I'm a little surprised it's kind of dragged a little bit. I'm sure there's some legalities you got to deal with.
I would agree with you there, Sean. I don't know why you just didn't cut bait before the bowl game.
And that was the other thing is, let's just say this, how this tension was able to kind of get out. I think everyone kind of knew there was, maybe a little friction, but it played out so publicly leading up to the game, combined with early signing period. And let's not forget, Notre Dame was a very good team this year, combined with the fact that I don't think they were ready for that backup quarterback. It just kind of became kind of a mess in the bowl game. And still, despite all that, you should have won, and probably should have won easily. Should have won by at least 10 points in that game. So, look, I think it's a foregone conclusion. Matt Canada's out.
Right. Kenny, could you turn up the sound of the studio on the phones if you don't mind? And let's go to Hayward in New Orleans. Hayward, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Hayward.
Hey, how y'all?
Perfect, Kenny. Thank you. Doing great.
This question is for Sean.
Yes.
Sean, you're a nice guy. You're the same guy every time I see you, but you remember me, but you're still the same person. I got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
If we did not go to the playoff this year, two questions. Do you think this would have been the end of Sean Payton? And the second question is, or you think that the Saints are building this team like they did for the 06 to run to the Super Bowl? If we don't make it to the Super Bowl, do you think in the next 2 or 3 years, this is going to be the team that take us there? And I'm going to hang
Thank
up.
you, Hayward. 2 great questions, by the way.
Great question. Yes, I believe had the Saints gone 7-9 again, the organization would have been forced to make a move. You just could not sell it to this fan base. By this time, if they were 7-9, by this exact weekend, there would have been moves being made. I absolutely think Sean Payton they would have moved on from Sean Payton had he gone 7-9 or 8-8 and not made the playoffs. 9-7, I still think could have gotten him canned as well, but it didn't happen. Now, your other question, 06, I see the parallels because the instant impact of the draft class. In fact, I think this draft class has an even bigger, quicker impact. The question is, though, 2 to 3 years down the road, who's throwing the ball? Who's throwing the ball? Because is Drew Brees going to be around 2-3 years from now? We'll see. He'll be 41 or 42 at that point. So
well, if he's Tom Brady, he will be.
Well, he's got to get the secret diet, or whatever it is.
Find out what that diet is, yeah. Wallace is in New Orleans. Hey, Wallace, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports.
Hey, my man, how y'all doing?
What's happening, Wallace? Happy New Year.
All right, check this out. If we know we don't like Atlanta now, but if they wish to beat the Rams, right, and we beat Carolina, you know we're going to beat Carolina. And we go out there and beat Minnesota, and if Atlanta we go beat Philadelphia, and Atlanta beat Minnesota, that means the game come to New Orleans, right? Championship in the dome, right? And we beat Atlanta the third straight time, second time, this time around again, and you know we're going to the Super Bowl.
Wallace, I can say this, my friend, from your mouth to God's ears on that.
Only correct you there. One quick thing: if Atlanta were to win, the Saints would have to go to Minnesota, not Philadelphia, because if Atlanta would have to go to Philly, because it would be the 6 versus the 1. So, but yes. Should Atlanta and the Saints both win, and they both win in the second round, it would be Saints, Falcons, and the NFC Championship. And wouldn't that be something? Because that would be in the dome.
That would be a great win in the dome. And if I cut you off, I apologize, Wallace. Harris is in Slidell. Final call of the day. Hey, Harris.
Hey, Eric. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
Enjoy the show as always.
Thank you.
Question on Aranda. When I look at his contract and the concessions and autonomy that's reported that he's getting, do you guys think that he's possibly the coach in waiting in the event things go south next season with Orgeron? And I'll hang up and listen for your answer.
Thank you. About 20 seconds, Sean. See, I don't.
No, because
I don't think he wants to be a head coach.
I don't think he's I don't think he wants to be a head coach. I think his ultimate goal is an NFL coordinator. Yes. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I don't either. And let me tell you something. Orgeron, what do you think Orgeron wants to have the guy behind him as the coach in waiting? There's a big difference between Bobby Bowden and having a coach in waiting and then the situation here. Right. Big difference. Bowden was in his 70s.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And look, there's no way Ed would hire and have his coach in waiting on his staff in his second year in the job. Exactly. I don't think it's going to happen.
No, I don't think so. All right, thank you so much, Sean.
Thank
really
you.
Appreciate it as
Good
always.
stuff.
Great job. Fantastic job. Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, there's a rebroadcast of this program each and every Friday night right here on WLAE at 10 p.m. We're also on Pelican Sports Television. That's 9 o'clock every Friday. You can also catch me on the radio. Sports 1280, 101.1 FM HD2. You see the big smile on my face, don't you? Yeah, you're right. Then, of course, you can listen at the iHeartRadio app, also at sports1280.com. ericasher.com, where you can download the podcast. Also, ericasher.com, where you can see all the previous episodes of Inside New Orleans Sports. That is noon to 2 weekdays. I want to thank the WLA production staff, Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Kenny Juno, Trey Lopez, my director, William Hill, and, of course, the best in the business, Sean Fazende, for joining us tonight. Thanks so much for watching. I'm your host, Eric Asher. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports, hopefully talking about a Saints victory.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
Located on Lake Pontchartrain, Brisby's Lakefront Restaurant and Bar offers traditional West End favorites, a scenic view, oysters, and numerous tasty options. More information is available at 504-304-4125 or brisbysrestaurant.com.